I'm Matt Gardner, horse racing analyst and middle distance handicapper at Timeform, and this is my runner-by-runner guide to this year's Derby. We're going to spin through the horses in race card order. The ratings that I'll be referencing are Timeform weight-adjusted races for this race, and hopefully they'll be popping up on the screen somewhere as well. So we'll start at the top. Horse number 1, Orion Naveen. Hopefully I've not completely butchered that pronunciation, but it's the best that I had. 101p. A 1.3 million yearling, cracking pedigree, brother to Douglas MacArthur, who were both smart. Still green when he finished 4th in a maiden at Leopardstown last time. That form has worked out pretty well behind Tiger Moth and Dawn Patrol, who went on to finish 2nd and 3rd in the Irish Derby behind Santiago. So there is a little bit of something to hang your hat on with him, but I suspect it's probably just a case of this is going to come a bit too soon in his development. Emissary, 125p. Really promising start from this horse. I've definitely got time for him. Inexperience cost him as much as anything else when he was beaten by Khalifus in the Cocked Hat Stakes at Goodwood. I thought he shaped the best of that pair that day, and I think he's got the more ability of the two as well. Whether similar to the first horse, whether this is just going to come a bit too soon for him, he's still quite rough around the edges. But I definitely think further down the line he's got quite a bit of scope for improvement to come. English King, 131p, really progressive in his 3 starts so far, and I was properly impressed with him in the Lingfield Derby trial. I think that was a trial in the proper sense of the word, in that they went a real good gallop. I was just impressed by the way that he travelled and then the way that he settled the race. His turn of foot I thought was really impressive. The form wasn't up to much, but I think it was more the way that he went about it that impressed me as much as anything. I backed him pretty soon after that Lingfield win. The market has obviously cottoned onto him. Dittori being booked as well, that saw the plunge. But I think he just looks to possess all of the tools to pass this test around Epsom, and I'm really keen on him. Number 4 is Gold Maze, 120 plus. He's been pretty highly tried so far. He's better than his Irish Derby showing would suggest. He was pretty keen that day. He doesn't look up to this level, really. Highland Chief, 128p. He had a pretty stop-start juvenile campaign. He ran a good race in the Chesham, went missing after that, and then he was off quite a long time before winning the Golden Gates handicap at Royal Ascot. He did that in the style of the horse that's going to be well suited to this further step up in trip. What he achieved there definitely puts him right in the mix. It's obviously a slightly strange mix up in terms of what horses have had the opportunity to achieve so far, as much as anything else. And for all that was a handicap win, the level of form doesn't put him a million miles away. And I think he's still going to improve, particularly stepping up to 1.5 miles. Then we've got Cameco at 142. Obviously sets a clear standard. He's £9 clear at the top of the ratings. That 2,000 guineas win is by far the best form on offer. It's not a question of ability with him. He's a high class colt. There's no doubt about that. The question is the trip. I think there's comparisons to be drawn between him and Roaring Lion, another horse that was by Kittener's Joy, and really on the downside, both are bred to be sort of a mile and a quarter horses max. And really, I think that is the category that Cameco falls into. I think ability will get him so far, similar to how it did to Roaring Lion, to be honest, in this. But I think he might just find his stamina running dry at the end of the 1.5 mile trip. Khalifus, 124p. Already looks a really likeable, straightforward horse. He's definitely got ability as well. He was probably a shade fortunate to beat Emissary. He made that sort of uncomplicated nature count, bit more clued up as well. But he's going to relish this trip, possibly even a bit further in time. And with that in mind, he might do a bit better still. Max Vega, 121. Thought he was pretty disappointing in the Kempton Classic trial, to be honest. And really, even the pick of his juvenile form leaves him some way short here. Mogul, 124p. The pick of Ryan Moore out of the Aidan O'Brien bunch. Really promising as a juvenile. He won a Curragh Maiden, won the Champion Juvenile Stakes at Leopardstown as well before finishing 4th to Cameco in the Futurity. I think he just probably needed the run at Royal Ascot. I know a lot of people were pretty keen to write him off on the back of that. And I suppose on the face of it, he was a bit disappointing, but in the way that we're drawing comparisons between Cameco and Roaring Lion, I think we can draw them between Mogul and Japan, his brother, who took a couple of runs to really hit his stride last year. And I think Mogul is just going to be in that mould. It might be a case of this comes a little bit too soon, to be honest, and we don't see the best of him until a little bit later in the year. But I definitely think Mogul has potential, and I wouldn't be keen to write him off at all. Meheecan Heights, 120p. He's a horse that I've got a lot of time for, actually. He was 2 from 2 last year, won over in Ireland, and then he joined David Simcock. He wasn't seen to anything like best effect at Royal Ascot. Ridden to a large extent to beat Mogul, to be honest, and that rather backfired. He was left poorly placed as a result, and the test of speed in that King Edward just wouldn't have suited him either. I think he's definitely got scope for better. In the back of my mind, I sort of see him more as a St Ledger prospect, maybe even a cup horse for next year, given how much stamina there is in his pedigree. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him, run a decent race at bigger odds. Next is Mythical at 118. Turned over at odds on his reappearance, but he was reportedly lame that day. Didn't really look a star as a juvenile, to be honest, and I don't think he's sort of one of the leading Aidan O'Brien horses. Pile Driver at 125. Maximised both his experience and his relative speed when winning at Royal Ascot, beating Mogul, beating Meheecan Heights. It was quite a muddling race. He made his ground on the inside, and it was the turn of foot really that won him the race as much as anything else. I think a few will be capable of progressing past him, including both Mogul and Meheecan Heights, to be honest. Russian Emperor, 133p. I've sort of completely changed my opinion of this horse. I didn't really like the way that he ran in the Derrinstown. I thought his head carriage was a bit awkward. He looked a little bit sort of slow, to be honest. But he's obviously just progressed for that run, and with the experience, still like the race, obviously. And then I was very impressed with him at Royal Ascot. The amount of ground that he made up in the straight, having been quite poorly positioned turning in, he did it in a good time as well. I was quite taken by that run. I think the 1.5 miles is going to be right up his street. Obviously Ryan Moore has gone from Mogul. I was slightly surprised by that decision, to be honest. I think at the prices you can make a case for Russian Emperor being the bet now. We've got Serpentine at 115p. He didn't really cut much ice on his first 2 starts. Much improved for the fitting of cheek pieces when winning a maiden by a wide margin last weekend. The form of that is a little bit shaky, I think, and this is obviously a big step up in grade as well, so he might fall a little bit short. Penultimate horse, Vatican City, 129p. Very unexposed, took the step up in his grade in his stride when he finished second in the Irish 2000 Guineas to Siskin. It's probably unfortunate not to make more of a race of it with that rival as well, having met trouble on a couple of occasions. The question I've got with him is the trip. He's not really bred to stay beyond 1.25 miles, and I think 1 mile or 1.25 miles is going to be his ideal trip. He's promising, but I'm not sure this sort of test is really going to suit him. And finally, down the bottom, Worthily, 102p. Well bred, made a perfectly promising debut at Newbury, won in quite good style. He's got potential, but I think this is, it's a big step up in grade, and I think it's probably going to be a bit too much for him. So in terms of the 1, 2, 3, like I said earlier, I'm really keen on English King. I was super impressed with the way that he went about it at Lingfield. He just looks to tick all of the right boxes. I think that was a proper trial. It's rare for a horse this inexperienced to show stamina and speed like he did, and I think he has all of the tools to pass this test. From a price perspective now, 5 to 2 English King, he is probably short enough on the form that he's achieved. I think from a price perspective, Russian Emperor is the bet really now, at about 13 to 2. I was impressed with him at Ascot, and I think he can definitely improve again at this trip. And then Cameco has the most ability that we've seen so far, top on the Timeform card. I think the stamina is just going to come into play late on. I can't really get behind him being 1.5 miles horse. I think he's going to be at his best at 1 mile or even 1.25 miles. So for me, 1, 2, 3, the English King, Russian Emperor, and Cameco.